Welcome, folks. Thank you for being here this evening. Keep putting those names in the chat. My name is Susie Tierney. I'm the Executive Director of Just Faith Ministries, and just welcome this evening. It's so good to see all of you on Zoom tonight. I see lots of faces I know and love. This is our final evening of our recognition events for this month. And we just again want to thank you all for being here and for the good work you do to make the world a little bit better. So we're grateful for our facilitators, our local and national leaders and donors, and so many others. I'll name you all later. But we would not be celebrating 20 years without your support and leadership and the work you do. So thank you, and again, welcome. Tonight, we have an exciting evening planned. We're going to honor the first Becker Award recipients. We're going to hear an inspiring message from Jack, because his messages are always inspiring. And then I will be sharing a little bit about what's next for our work together and how you can be a part of it. But first, we will begin, as we always do, in prayer. So tonight, I offer this opening prayer, which is actually a blessing by Jan Richardson. And for those of you that don't know, Jan is an artist, author, and United Methodist minister. And this prayer reminds me of the transformative work we do together and is appropriately titled, "This Day We Say Grateful." It is a strange thing to be so bound and so released all in the same moment, to feel the heart open wide and wider still, even as it turns to take its leave. On this day, let us say, this is simply the way love moves in its ceaseless spiraling, turning us toward one another, then sending us into what waits for us with arms open wide to us in welcome and in hope. On this day, in this place, where you have poured yourself out, where you have been emptied and filled, and emptied again, may you be aware more than ever of what your heart has opened to, what your heart has opened to here, what it has tended and welcomed here, where it has broken in love and in grief, where it has given and received blessing in the unfathomable mystery that moves us, undoes us, and remakes us, finally, for joy. This day, may you know this joy in full measure. This day, may you know this blessing that gathers you in and sends you forth, but will not forget you. Oh, hear us as this day we say grace. This day we say grateful. This day we say blessing. This day we release you in God's keeping and hold you in gladness and in love. Amen. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our MC for the evening, PJ Edwards. It is so fitting to have PJ with us as our MC on our 20th anniversary, because he has literally filled every single role that you can possibly fill with Just Faith Ministries. PJ has been a board member who has served as co-chair. He has been a facilitator, a local leader, a regional rep, and he even served as an interim executive director during a transition time. And PJ doesn't just support us, but he puts his faith into action. He's the co-founder of El Refugio Hospitality House and serves as their board chair. And so I'm delighted to have PJ with us. Thank you, PJ, and welcome.
I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure. I am at a standing desk, so pardon me if I'm bouncing around a little bit. The staff asked me to start by sharing a little bit about my Just Faith story, so let me do that. My spouse and I first participated in a Just Faith group in 2008, and it was a great group and a very challenging experience that resulted in us deciding that we would live more simply, a little bit more simply, off of just her salary so that I could leave the for-profit world and use my business experience to work with organizations that walk alongside marginalized people and communities, and organizations that work for justice, organizations like Just Faith Ministries. I've been most affected by my work with undocumented immigrants and working against immigration detention. It's been very meaningful work that's allowed me to practice my faith, and the work continues to form me. At times, the work is difficult, the suffering is real, and the rate of change is slow. But like Shane Claiborne likes to say, Jesus said it would be good, didn't say it would be easy. So that's my Just Faith story. It's just been transformational for me and my family. But enough about me. Let's hear about some of our other Just Faith grads to talk about their Just Faith story and how Just Faith programs have helped form them, brought them deeper into community, and helped form the world around them. So now I think we have a video we'll play.
I'm Monica Smith, and my experience with Just Faith Ministries began with Jack Jezreel. I was a member of the St. Francis Xavier Peace and Justice Ministry when we attended a presentation by Jack on the Just Faith program. We were so inspired and moved that we decided to start the program in our parish. I co-facilitated that program for 4 years, and then I began facilitating the Caring for God's Creation program. That inspired me to create a green team in our parish. We established parish-wide initiatives on recycling and the adoption of sustainable products for all parish events, shifting us from styrofoam to compostable products. Since 2020, I have facilitated all 3 modules of the Faith and Racial Justice series. I continue to lead Just Faith grads in book and film discussions and actions for racial equity. It also inspired the creation of a new ministry on racial equity. I have learned from every program I've attended or facilitated with Just Faith. I continue to build my knowledge and understanding of social justice issues and what actions I can take in my community to address them. The staff and resources of Just Faith Ministries have been instrumental in moving me from learning to action. Just Faith Ministries has helped me to build community and to engage others in working for a more equitable world.
I first learned about Just Faith through a friend from work, and he invited me to come hear Jack Jezreel speak at a local church, and I was totally captivated. But I didn't see anyone my own age in my mid-20s, so I created a group with some of my friends. And I saw Just Faith personally help broaden and deepen my faith, and learn that the work of Jesus is the work of compassion, justice, and mercy in our community. I also had to develop a deep sense of community amongst my friends, so I became hooked and became what Just Faith calls a super facilitator for years to come. I've seen it be a powerful tool to awaken people in my community to justice and compassion. I've personally seen hundreds in our city come through the Just Faith program and not only be impacted individually, but them take that faith and bring it out into our entire community. And I've seen those grads get to work. I've seen them help secure more funding for public transit for some of our neighbors. I've seen them help ensure that toxic environmental waste sites in low-income communities are cleaned up. I've seen them lead courageous conversations in our community on the history of racial violence. Much was inspired by individuals taking the first step to join a Just Faith group, and I can't hardly wait for another 20 years of Just Faith in my community.
Hey everyone, my name is Nebu Kolancheri. I first encountered Just Faith when I moved to Atlanta and went to church and saw that there was an announcement for it and joined, and weirdly enough, ended up meeting some of my best friends in Atlanta through that program. And in addition, I also saw how transformative it was in the lives of adult Christians that were interested in social justice and trying to figure out how to process their faith and the world together. And really, in my friends and in me, it created this change in penchant to where, tilt your life and rethink the way you're living. And then I was invited to come on to the board, and I loved it, and I really enjoyed getting to see how the program is operated nationally. And now I've, friends all over the country where I'm like, what, you did Just Faith? I did Just Faith, and this is weird network. And then more recently during the pandemic, I decided to do the Engaging Spirituality program virtually. And that kind of really caused me to rethink what I was doing with my life, and it actually kind of ended up switching to I left a private sector position and took on a role in a government public health department supporting the coronavirus response because I just realized I wanted to do something that served the public. And I think Just Faith played a big role in that. So thank you so much for your time.
To be part of this milestone celebration for Just Faith Ministries. I can firsthand tell you about how it has transformed and improved my faith life, in my vocation, in my ministry. But I can also tell you about how I have witnessed how it has impacted all the people that have gone through the program alongside with me. I have the opportunity to meet people from almost every corner of the U.S. and share and grow through the programs that Just Faith has put in place. So I'm here to just tell you I am super excited for a 20th year and just that God would bless Just Faith Ministries with many, many years more of service and to continue to be faithful to show what justice work looks like through the lens of our gospel.
Wow, I think many of us, all of us, can relate to the tremendous impact Just Faith has had on us and in our communities around us. And so let me introduce the person probably most singly responsible for making this program happen. So Jack Jezreel, God, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, received his BA degree in religion and philosophy from Furman University in 1979 and his Master's of Divinity degree from the University of Notre Dame in 1982. From 1983 to 88, Jack was a member of a Catholic worker community, during which time he helped supervise the soup kitchen in 3 hospitality houses for men and women who were homeless. Jack also became interested in sustainability issues and has been involved in organic agriculture since 1985. He has a fantastic garden at his house and edible vegetables in the front, turns out. Jack has worked for 40 years in justice education. For 8 of those years, Jack served as the Minister of Social Responsibility at Church of the Epiphany in Louisville, Kentucky, where he first developed the original Just Faith program. During this time, he and his spouse, Maggie, also built a straw bale house in rural Kentucky and lived without running water, electricity, or a telephone for several years while growing organic produce and raising 3 daughters, which really does explain a lot to me now. In 1995, Jack received the Peace and Justice Award from the Archdiocese of Louisville. In 2006, he received the Roundtable of Social Action Directors Harry A. Fagan Award, very long award name, for his, quote, unique contribution to the church's mission, end quote. In 2014, he received the Franciscan Mission Services Anselm Moon's OFM Award in recognition of his contributions to, quote, the formation of new disciples for peace, justice, and hope. Jack is the founder of Just Faith Ministries, served as its first executive director, and now serves as senior advisor. He is an author of numerous published articles and a book, A New Way to Be Church. He and Maggie live in Louisville, Kentucky, and they have 3 adult daughters and a grandson, and he's a fantastic speaker, and I'm very honored to hand it over to Jack.
Thanks, PJ. Well, the reason I thought it'd be nice to include that bit about living in a straw bale house with no running water, electricity, or telephone was just to say that I have made some mistakes. Good evening, friends. Well, this is just great fun for me. As I scroll through the images and the names of everyone who is with us tonight, I'm just tickled to see so many people that have been part of the cloud of Just Faith witnesses over the last 20 years. And that's where I want to start. Really, from the very beginning, the Just Faith Project has been a collaboration. Yes, there has been a formal staff and a formal board, but the Just Faith Project has always been a beehive of engagement, relying on a national panorama of commitments from local organizers, co-facilitators, donors, advocates, and partner organizations. You see, Just Faith programs are really just words on a paper or computer screen without the local effort, without you. And tonight, there are dozens and dozens of people on your screen who have invested a lot of time, a lot of work, and quite frankly, a lot of money in making the work of Just Faith happen. So to all of you, I say, great job. Thank you. Well done. We are so grateful to have partnered with you over these 20 years. This is our celebration of what we, all of us, have achieved together. This 20th anniversary, like all anniversaries or birthdays or special dates, really is just a marker in time, but it gives us a chance to reflect in both directions, past and future. And I'd like to spend a few minutes doing just that. So first, the past. If nothing else, my friends, the Just Faith experience over the last 20 years has demonstrated that people can change in remarkable, wonderful ways. It is spoken loud and clear that human beings are capable of really extraordinary transitions, even in the latter part of their lives. I remember being in Fort Collins, Colorado, about 10 years ago to give a workshop. And at the break, this very neatly dressed woman came up to me. She extended her hand for me to shake. And while she briskly shook my hand, she said briskly, "Hello, Mr. Jack. My name is Ann Smith. I'm 89 years old. I went through Just Faith last year. It was a favorite year of my life." And with that, she turned around and briskly walked off. And I was left in this sort of cloud of wonder and gratitude. The stories of transition, of change, metanoia, new life, whatever you want to call it, are a big part of the Just Faith legacy. One of the great pleasures of working with Just Faith over the last 20 years has been the regular experience of hearing or reading stories of people talking about themselves and how their lives took a turn in a way they never would have anticipated. There were some stretches over the last 20 years when I would find myself on the road week after week doing workshops and meeting program graduates. And it got to the point that when some smiling, eager person would approach me, I was pretty sure I knew what they were going to say. And I would think to myself, yes, I know your life has been changed, right? It seemed sometimes just that common. But common or not, I think all of us would agree that to be around the table, or in the case of the last year and a half, gathered around a common Zoom screen, elbow to elbow or image to image, with people as they come to discover a new beckon, a new challenge, a new invitation for their lives, is nothing but holy ground. There is something so powerful and so intimate about being in the same room, the same space, with someone who is being recreated before our eyes. And of course, the self-report of personal change without the observable evidence of change is not compelling. Actions do and always will speak louder than words. And more important, actions make for change. And that is why we have chosen to celebrate this 20th anniversary with stories of what people have done in response to what they have experienced in our programs. And there are a lot of stories to tell. Stories of legislative advocacy, global solidarity, direct service, racial justice, environmental activism, restorative justice, and much, much more. What a compendium of witness. So my friends, I'm so encouraged by these past 20 years. Here's what I see in a nutshell. When we gather together, listen to one another, build community, consider the gospel, consider the world around us, have an encounter with those who've been abandoned or exploited, we choose love. We choose justice. We choose connection. It's a life-affirming, love-affirming, God-affirming testimony. If you needed a reason to believe in hope, I've got 20 years of stories for you. So to wax theological for just a moment, that human beings can change and change for the good is not to affirm that change is extraordinary. On the contrary, I would ask you to consider this, that change is the only constant to a life well lived. The language of creation, that God created the world, is in fact, in part, unhelpful. The true language is God is creating the world. You and I have not been created. We are being created. And when we embrace the Spirit, it seems to me, it always means some kind of evolution or becoming or changing. The gospel is about journeys that will always mean that we are dying to something and rising to something else. The gospel and this human life are about becoming. The world becoming, you and I becoming. So let change be the dance of our lives, and let the song that we dance to be justice, or right relationships, or all things being made whole. So now, to turn our gaze forward, I'd like to consider what the next 20 years might look like. And you can probably guess now what I'm going to say, and that is, for the work of Just Faith Ministries to be healthy, for our collective work for justice to be fruitful, our work is going to have to continue to be open to new insights, to new wisdom, to fresh possibilities for evolution and change. There is no static recipe for peace. There is no single way to justice. The work will have to be driven by creativity as well as conviction. So here are some musings. They're not representative of anything but my own hunches and passions. So please don't file a complaint if they don't happen. Okay. Well, one of the first things I'd like to mention is what seems to me to be at least one of the biggest obstacles to the work of faith-based, church-based work for justice, and that's the church itself. As I've said in many different places in many different ways, many, if not most, churches are crafted around the logic of a set of static activities: worship, Bible study, sacraments, fundraising. And then the work of social mission is considered extracurricular at best and optional at worst. And I realize this is a brushstroke. And yes, it's true, there are good exceptions. But most churches' mission statements do not begin with, "Let justice roll like a river." But it's time that they do. So my encouragement to all of us tonight, in the name of the world's children and grandchildren, is to find a community that starts with, "Let justice roll like a river," or "Let peace begin with me," or "Red or yellow, black or white, they are precious in God's sight." My friends, there is no time to waste. Find a community to engage with, a place that welcomes your passion for justice, and do not absent yourself from the work that needs to be done because you're waiting for your church members or your church leaders to finally get on board. And to that end, what I imagine for Just Faith Ministries is a future of building communities for action. I'll say that again, a future of building communities for action, anchored in prayer, rooted in a common vision, nourished by friendship, but motivated and organized around the logic of working together for the reign of God, for change. Already in 2021, Just Faith Ministries has begun to experiment with local staff whose work it is to bring people together, resource them for action, and provide a kind of hub for engagement. And Susie will say more about this later, but if I could daydream for a moment, in 5 years, I'd like to see 25 staff in 25 cities around the country. In 10 years, 50 staff in 50 cities. And 20 years from now, 100 Just Faith cities working on building constituency for justice, working across denominational and religious boundaries, educating and organizing for justice. Growth, not for growth's sake, growth for impact. And my friends, I do not know why this can't happen. Second, I imagine the conversations that all of us are having about the future of our faith communities will also take a front burner at Just Faith. Specifically, how do we engage young people who have left traditional Christian faith communities. It's clear, isn't it, that young people are saying something very deliberate to the churches, something like, no thanks. So to that end, Just Faith Ministries is already exploring new ways of reaching people of faith and goodwill who no longer find traditional church compelling. We're working on resources that are meant to intrigue the spiritually curious, and at the same time, we're inviting churches to rethink their priorities exactly so that maybe the spiritually curious find them compelling. We think the nature of religion itself is changing, and we want to be a helpful part of that evolution. And we want that evolution to include the next generation. And finally, one of the unexpected consequences of COVID has been the rather surprising, at least surprising to me, discovery that you can have a pretty great experience in a virtual Just Faith program group. Who would have guessed that you would be able to click on your computer, see each other's face, hear each other's voice, and actually have a soulful experience exploring eco-justice, for example. And this points to some possibilities of building community across the country. Now, I happen to be in the camp of, if we can meet in person safely, that's my first choice. But we all know that it's not been safe. And like many of you, I've been very, very glad to have the virtual option. But my friends, the virtual option, I'd like to suggest, should not be considered simply a second best option while we're protecting ourselves from COVID, but a remarkably versatile tool that will allow us to connect across our cities, across our states, across our country, and perhaps beyond our country. And so looking ahead, I imagine in the Just Faith Network, a robust sharing of best practices across the country. I imagine national campaigns integrating the work of graduates across the country. I see program groups in, let's say, Boston and San Diego talking to each other about how to best go forward in the name of racial justice. I see the best guest speaker on domestic poverty in Indianapolis being invited to speak to a group in Philadelphia. I see lots and lots of cross-pollination. Another version of the beehive. I could say more. How about programs in Spanish, programs on community organizing, programs for seminaries and pastors? I hope so. There's a lot to look forward to in the next 20 years. So how about you? What would you like to see happen? So as a favor, can I invite you right now to add your own hopes for the next decade or two in the chat box? We would love to know what you would like to see happen in the next 2 decades. Okay, I need to make a transition here. So all of you are aware that in just a few minutes, the Mary and Gary Becker Awards will be announced. So I'd like to share a few words on how this award came to be. Mary and Gary were members of Church of the Epiphany in Louisville, Kentucky, where I was working, and were both participants in the first ever Just Faith group in the universe that started in the fall of 1989. That first version of Just Faith, which was something of an adaptation of the RCIA model, was, now wait for it, 37 weeks long. And there were 3 full weekend retreats. There were 15 books, and well, it was a lot. Mary and Gary were the only couple in the group besides Maggie and me. And of course, you knew why Maggie had to be there. There were 12 of us that year. And of course, it was a big experiment. For all I knew, it might be the only year that the program would be offered. And looking back, if you don't mind, I have to laugh a bit. One of the first books we read that inaugural year was a technical text called What is Redaction Criticism?, which is an academic approach to studying scripture. Well, that wasn't very well received and never made it into another Just Faith syllabus again, thank heavens. And undeterred, we moved on. And My friends, what we experienced that year will probably resonate with many of your own experiences. We built community. Many of us became friends for life. We had some fabulous conversations, some deeply personal, sometimes wonderfully expansive. We were taken aback by what we read, what we saw, what we witnessed. We were all impacted. You know, if I look back to that point in time and then look forward over the next 20 years at the lives of those in that group, it was clear that that just faith process had touched everyone, but none more than Mary and Gary. Mary and Gary were accomplished professionals when they came to Just Faith. Gary was a successful attorney whose practice was expanding dramatically. Mary was a CPA, intelligent, thoughtful, articulate. They clearly appreciated their experience in Just Faith, but it was hard to anticipate just how it might impact their lives, just like anybody else. But Just Faith seemed like spiritual rocket fuel for them. Within a very short time, Gary was volunteering at a homeless shelter. Mary started a Pax Christi group in Louisville. Shortly after that, Gary was off to El Salvador as part of a parish twinning process. Mary was opening up a socially responsible investment office. Soon after that, they both went to Haiti, a trip that impacted them profoundly. And after several trips to Haiti, they both invested their time and resources into a fledgling organization called Foncose, which provided microloans to impoverished women in Haiti. They both served on the board of directors for that organization, while it grew and impacted the lives of thousands and thousands of desperately poor people in that poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And now listen to this, Mary and Gary are the godparents of Just Faith Ministries. After several years of working at Church of the Epiphany, during which 6 Just Faith groups happened, I decided to retire from church work and start an organic farm. Several years into this, Gary showed up at my farm unannounced, invited himself to lunch, during which he told me in words similar to this, "You might be a good farmer, but there's something else you're supposed to be doing," which I did not appreciate at that moment. But 1 year later, with my plow retired, the National Just Faith Project was born under the umbrella of Catholic Charities USA, but only because Mary and Gary promised Catholic Charities they would help underwrite the project. Mary and Gary were members of the first board of directors for Just Faith. They both served on the executive committee. They were both full co-facilitators, local leaders, national leaders, and generous donors. They changed my life. And your link to Mary and Gary is that if your life has somehow been impacted by one of our programs, you can thank them. None of this would have happened without their passion, their vision, and their generosity. In June 2018, Mary's partner in love and justice, Gary, passed away. And the memory of his boundless energy, I used to call him a spiritual Tigger, will forever inspire me. In the name of quite frankly, in the same way that Mary continues to inspire me, I spoke these words at his memorial service. It was always Gary and Mary. Their names should rhyme. The two of them were a team. And whatever their relationship was before I met them, it became one of the most energetic partnerships for good that I've ever witnessed. It is said that the strongest relationships include a caring gaze at each other, with each other, and beyond each other. That was Mary and Gary. They loved each other, and they loved the world together. As a tribute to the extraordinary role Mary and Gary have played in the genesis and evolution of Just Faith as a national resource, This 20th anniversary acknowledges not only Mary's and Gary's passion for Just Faith, but their witness for good, for justice, for solidarity. Their lives speak to everything we might hope for as a people of faith. And so, without a word more, I would like to introduce you all to my friend, my dear, dear friend, Mary Becker.
Wow, Jack, thank you. That was a lot. And I do appreciate all those words, particularly about dear Gary. So as I thought about this evening's celebration, Jesus' parable of a farmer came to mind. You know the story. The farmer sowed seed on the path, on rocky ground, among thorns, but it didn't grow. And finally, the farmer tried sowing seed in good ground, and it yielded 30, 60, 100-fold. Now, a smart farmer knows that good ground is essential for a great crop. But good ground doesn't just happen. It needs preparation, it needs cultivation, and it needs care. I believe Just Faith Ministries is good ground. It's ground that has been prepared and cultivated over the last 20 plus years by prayer, scripture, symbols, books, videos, study materials, facilitators, retreats, feedback, and a whole lot of care. All of us who were planted in study groups over the years, we're the seeds. To the good ground of Just Faith, we added our patient, mindful conversations with one another, and we added the essential willingness to learn and grow and change. In the good ground of Just Faith, we became healthy seedlings, ready to move into our next stage of growth. The 3 finalists for this year's award were seedlings that grew, and they have yielded far more than 100-fold. As I count it, over the years, those 3 projects have directly helped more than 1,000 people to obtain support in homes, or jobs, education, hope. In fact, all of the projects that applied for the award are winners because they've worked for years to feed and house the poor, or reach out to the imprisoned, teach the unschooled, dignify those who are downcast. They've all accompanied brothers and sisters who need help. So thank you, all of you who applied for this award. And thanks be to all of you who didn't apply this year, and even so are faithfully doing the work of justice. We know that you are. The good ground of Just Faith Ministries has yielded, and it will continue to yield many, many good crops, great crops of care going forward. Let it be so.
Thank you, Mary. That was wonderful. It's just such a pleasure to see you and that you've done so much for the organization that you're helping these social justice organizations do more as well. It's really beautiful. So I hear word on the street that there are many great organizations that applied. We have 3 finalists. So let me introduce you to these 3 finalists. I'll tell you a little about each one. My Front Door, formed in 2005 by Just Faith grads in Cheyenne and Laramie, Wyoming, where they serve working families with children, focusing on families that are between 50 and 80% of the median income as determined by HUD. They focus on ensuring successful long-term home ownership and financial literacy. Our second finalist is Weavers of Hope, formed in 2002 by Just Faith graduates. They provide educational assistance for students in and around Villa Garcia, Zacatecas, Mexico. They focus on preparing students for self-sufficiency through education and meaningful work. And our third finalist is Winter Nights Family Shelter, formed in 2004 by Just Faith grad Gwen Watson and others et al. They provide temporary shelter to homeless families with minor children throughout Contra Costa, California. The objective is to care for families and to support them with services that lead to rehousing the families. And so now we're going to hear watch a video to learn a little bit more about these three great organizations.
Hi, I'm Maggie Chaffee, a volunteer for Winter Nights. I'm honored to nominate Winter Nights for this award. The objective is to care for families and offer shelter, food, tutoring, and help in finding housing. Winter Nights provides temporary shelter for homeless families with minor children in partnership with interfaith congregations throughout Contra Costa County. Churches and synagogues throughout the county, many of whom have participated in Just Faith programs, were recruited to donate their facilities to shelter and feed Winter Nights clients supported by volunteers from their congregation. 60 congregations have participated, and approximately 30 to 40 Just Faith participants have volunteered from the beginning. Over the course of 1 year, as many as 4,000 volunteers providing food, housing, and education.
What's the key to being able to move families forward to a secure future and getting basically that generational poverty no more? Housing is it. In our 14 years as a nonprofit, 54 families have achieved first-time homeownership and 53 have been successful over the long term. Phase 1 is financial literacy. A 12-week class prepares families to be knowledgeable and ready for all of the aspects of budgeting and buying a home. Phase 2 is the savings phase. Families are mentored for an 18 to 24-month period as they save the 3.5% needed for homeownership. Phase 3 is the maintenance phase. Families learn to maintain and improve the value of their homes for the first 5 years by meeting quarterly for personalized mentoring services. The My Front Door program is needed now more than ever in Cheyenne, Laramie, and other parts of Wyoming. The challenges are great, but so is the opportunity to do justice and impact generational poverty for working families with children.
Hi, my name is Jack Kern, and I'm the president of Weavers of Hope. Our focus is to provide educational assistance to help young people who live in poverty to continue their education. And our community is in central Mexico in the state of Zacatecas. We started with 20 students in the program and now have 70, and our vision for the future is to continue about at that level, possibly a little more. One example would be Alma Leticia, who graduated from medical school and is now working at a clinic in the area as a medical doctor. And during this pandemic, she's been really active in educating people on safe practices and dispelling some of the myths that circulate regarding vaccinations. We have a long waiting list of deserving students who would love to get in. Thank you so much for your attention.
So it's my great pleasure to announce these awards. The winner of third place award is My Front Door. And I believe Brenda is with us and Terry, perhaps. So I invite either one of you to say a word about how you plan to use the prize.
Thank you, Mary. Our plan is to use the resources to tailor the training strategies of our families so that it's as good a fit as we can possibly make it.
Terrific. Congratulations. Oh, Brenda.
We intend to develop a curriculum that really closely meets what our evolving needs are in that.
All right. Thank you so much, both of you, for your wonderful work. And now the second place award goes to Weavers of Hope. And is Jack with us today to speak of that?
Yes, hello. Had to get unmuted there. So first of all, I guess just on behalf of the whole organization, thank you so much for this award and for the recognition and really at a much deeper level. Thank you, as I heard the story tonight from Jack about Mary and your connection, and Gary also with him and with Just Faith Ministries, just really inspiring. So thanks to all of you. And as I mentioned in the video, we have a long waiting list of students who would love to get into our program. The program's been going on for 18 years, and you know how word gets out in the community, especially a relatively small community, about what's going on. So these students kind of have watched their peers and their neighbors go through the program. They appreciate the value of education. They really want to get in. And of course, we have limited resources. So this will allow us to have a couple of more of them enter the program, and that will be a dream come true for them. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Terrific work. And I perhaps should have said, you may know, but the order of the people who were chosen of the organizations was determined by the number of voters who were Just Faith participants who took the time to vote for these. So it gives me great pleasure to announce first place to Winter Nights Family Shelter. And Judy Stillman, I believe, is with us to speak for that and to accept this award. So congratulations.
Yes, and thank you so very much. Winter Nights has a dear spot in everybody's heart that voted, and we appreciate that. Gwen Watson is on this Zoom, and she was the one who started Winter Nights many years ago, and we still continue that legacy, but our budget has vastly increased. We run a lot on volunteer power, a lot of volunteers from Catholic churches. In fact, we have 9 Catholic churches that are involved, but we also have 18 faith communities that host and another 40 that co-host. So we have many, many, many volunteers. And one of our programs that we will be probably focusing this money on is we're calling the Safe Park program. It's a fairly new program. And we have folks who live in their cars. We have a dedicated church that has given us space, and we let those folks stay overnight. And right now there are 2 families that are staying there, and they will go into our shelter next week. So we go from one to the other. And thank you so much for this. I've learned so much about Just Faith tonight, and I appreciate all the work that everybody does. And I'm inspired by what everybody has done so far. Thank you very much.
So inspiring to be with all of you.
It really is. I saw somebody, I think Ann Murphy commented, just to go through all the people that are on tonight and the names we know and the amazing amount of work that people have done. As Jack said, there's been a lot of action out of this group, and that was the goal. So congratulations to all the finalists, and thanks to everybody that applied. I want to point out this is an inaugural event. So keep on the lookout for how to apply for next year's award. And thanks again to Gary and Mary for this lovely ceremony and awards they put together. So further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Susie, who's going to tell us about what Just Faith is going to be up to in the years coming forward. Susie.
First, I have a litany of thank yous, starting with a heartfelt congratulations to Winter Nights Family Shelter, For My Front Door, Weavers of Hope, and for all who submitted your wonderful examples of love and action for this inaugural Mary and Gary Becker Social Justice Award. Your work is truly inspiring, and we celebrate the impact you're having in your local communities and the lives that have been changed because of your efforts. So thank you for your witness, and again, congratulations. And second, I would like to thank Mary Becker for joining us tonight and for allowing us to honor you and Gary in this award. I could not think of a more fitting way to celebrate our 20th anniversary this evening than to have you among us, Mary. Without you and Gary, Just Faith Ministries might not exist today. And so for you and Gary, we are profoundly grateful. So thank you. And third, I offer my thanks and gratitude to Jack, not only for yet another inspiring message this evening, but also for his vision for a better world that's brought us all here together today in celebration of 20 years. Thank you for your original vision, Jack, and congratulations on 20 years. I'm thrilled to be celebrating with you and the rest of our extraordinary staff this evening, and they are extraordinary. Lastly, and certainly not least, I'd like to again share my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for joining us tonight for this anniversary celebration, and all of you who will be watching this recording. You are donors, you are coordinators and facilitators, you are board members, you are past and present staff, you are past and present participants of our programs, you are friends, you are putting your faith into action, you are making a difference. You matter to us. And for all of you, we are deeply grateful. And now, if you'd please allow me just the next few minutes to share with you ways we continue to live, ways we intend to continue living into this original vision that introduced Just Faith to a national audience 20 years ago. And I'd like to frame these next few minutes with my very favorite quote of all time. If you know me, you know it's actually not a quote, but it's the title of an Emily Dickinson poem, and it's called I Dwell in Possibilities. So please dwell in possibilities with me for a few moments. As we consider how we will live into our mission of building a more just and peaceful and equitable world in 2022 and beyond, our Just Faith Ministry staff and board are dwelling in possibilities. In fact, we have 3 opportunities that have presented themselves that we'd like to partner with you on to inspire even more life-changing stories like those of our Becker Award nominees and recipients. The first opportunity we are leaning into is continuing to use our programs to springboard individuals, small groups, and churches into social mission that changes lives and changes communities. This fall and in 2022, we are ready to release new, relevant programs that will continue to be steeped in this desire to work across lines of difference while maintaining that prophetic voice that we need for the work of peace, justice, and equity. This fall, we're actually launching a program on civil dialogue designed to do just that. And in 2022, we'll be launching a 4th program in our Just Faith series on global poverty in collaboration with Catholic Relief Services and our partner, Bread for the World. We'll also be finishing the 3rd program in our Eco Justice series and continuing to use your feedback and insights to improve our racial justice series and other programs, all while discerning how best to bridge that gap between the end of our programs and the beginning of the efforts to create local change. The second opportunity we're leaning into is driving some of this local change through local teams. Jack mentioned this. With your partnership in 2022, we will be placing 5 local organizers in cities across the country to inspire more individuals through our programs and to connect people who have participated in our programs with causes that matter. I have personally witnessed in the Des Moines area what happens when you have a coordinated effort to educate and inspire groups of people in the same area about issues affecting their communities. Life-changing, community-changing impact happens. By placing local organizers in key cities, we intend to facilitate even more efforts like the Becker Award nominees and finalists. The third opportunity we are leaning into is supporting and connecting people and helping to sustain them in this lifelong work of social mission, social justice. Through a technological upgrade to our website, as Jack hinted at, for the first time in Just Faith Ministries history, individuals will be able to find a program, opportunity, and a community in their area through our website. And small groups will be able to find participants. For the first time, individuals will be able to register for virtual versions of our programs in the event that there are no Just Faith Ministries programs being offered in their area. In the event they prefer not to drive in rush hour traffic or have young children, in the event they are not connected with a faith community doing the program. This new website capability will allow us to provide more resources to support and sustain those who have gone through our programs and close the loop on what is all of ours to do in the name of peace and justice and equity, in the name of gospel justice. We are dwelling in the possibility of communal change, national change, even global change, as Jack's story shows us, and Mary's story shows us in Mexico and Haiti. And we want all of you to partner with us in this work. We need all of you to partner with us in this work. Folks, today there seems to be no end to the bad news around us. A global pandemic has driven a wedge through our country and our world when it should be bringing us together. Racist systems and structures are alive and well and need to be dismantled. Hunger and poverty have been exacerbated by the pandemic. Violence is all around us every day, and the world is literally on fire as a result of the climate crisis. Oh yes, folks, we need you to partner with us in this work. We need you to dwell in the possibility of a world in which masks or no masks, vaccines or no vaccines are not what people are fighting about, but rather that people are arguing about how best to address the needs of those affected by it. We need you to dwell in the possibility that racist systems can be undone. Anything that can be built can be dismantled. We need you to dwell in the possibility that peace is not only possible, but the only way we will ever be able to resolve our conflicts, whether they're personal or global. And we need you to dwell in the possibility that we do have the power to stop the catastrophic impact of climate change. Our programs have already inspired over 65,000 people to dwell in just these kinds of possibilities. And those people are impacting local, national, and global change. So my invitation to you tonight, as a fellow supporter of this ministry and donor, please partner with us. I invite you to give a special 20th anniversary gift. Use 20s if that's helpful. Consider becoming a monthly donor at $20 a month. Consider giving $200, $2,000, or even $20,000 if you have those means to make a difference, to help drive programs that belong to everyone, that you co-create with us to help build peace, justice, and equity in communities across the U.S. If you've already given a special 20th anniversary gift, or even if you're a donor, thank you, thank you, thank you. Our gratitude is deep and wide. Please, let us share all our gratitude with you now. If you have given a 20th anniversary gift, let us know in the chat. Put something in there. I gave, yes, yay, Just Faith, whatever. Put something in there if you've given, so we can physically thank you this evening for your support. And as those notes are going in the chat, let me close with this, friends. I hope you will dwell in possibility with us today, so together we can change this world for the better. Before I introduce two people I adore, I want to leave you with my second favorite quote ever. And it's actually the last line in Emily Dickinson's I Dwell in Possibilities poem. The last line is, "The spreading wide my narrow hands to gather paradise." Let's spread wide our hands and gather paradise together. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you. And now, please let me introduce the end to the last presenters of our evening, Julie Stone and Ed Banish. Julie is a current Just Faith Ministries board member from Colorado, and Ed is a former board member from Cheyenne, Wyoming. And they are not only graduates of our programs and supporters, but they are two of the most inspiring people I know, two of my favorite people. Ed and Julie, thank you for joining us.
Indeed. And we feel the same way after listening to your message tonight, Susie. We know that we are standing between you and the next 5 minutes, maybe even 3 minutes that will get you onto your night. But I can't think of a partnership, Susie, that I am more honored to be a part of. When I think about where resources can make the biggest difference, I would be hard pressed to find a place that draws my passion and my meaning the way that Just Faith does. So I'm joined by Ed tonight, and the two of us discussed what an honor it is to be among you, to be a part of this program tonight, because we are just 2 lives changed on a list of tens of thousands. And this is the part of the program where, in our recognition of our transformation, we invite you to make that true and possible for so many others. I want for everyone what Just Faith made true for me and for Ed. So Ed, I can only see myself right now, but are you there?
I'm here.
There you are.
Yes.
Could we have ever imagined how much our lives would change on the day Jack Jezreel wandered out to Laramie, Wyoming, to change our hearts and our minds in 2005?
No, it was inconceivable at the time. So I want to thank Jack for making that trek to the Wild West and to spend 3 hours talking to us, because at the end of those 3 hours, we were so moved, all of us there, especially Julie and myself, that we looked at each other and said, let's do this. And 3 weeks later, we had 10 people in the first segment of the first Just Faith program in Wyoming and in Cheyenne. And now with 160 in Cheyenne and several hundred around the state, we're going strong. And I'm really extremely proud to have My Front Door as one of the finalists and to be recognized nationally for its work, and for especially Terry Williams, the creator of that program, and for Brenda Burkle, who is an exceptional executive director for the program and going into uncharted territory to make even greater successes.
You know, Ed, you said a phrase that I think is the one we've lived by since Jack came to visit us. Let's do this. Tonight, after listening to Susie's invitation about what Just Faith imagines for a future, and Jack's beckoning that we would be bold, we would be courageous, we would lean into what it means to learn and do something different and see different faces and different colors and different people coming together to care about the poor. Like, let's do this. Let's say yes together to the programs that, to be honest, people might not have a chance at were it not for Just Faith. They may not get this message in church. They may not get this message anywhere. Let's do this on technology that lets people connect no matter where they are, maybe for the first time and in person too. Let's do this on putting boots on the ground so that we can connect people to what they most care about. And I would say all of us alums, let's do this on connecting to each other through technology that we haven't had before. Ed, what would be one thing that you think has changed the most for you in your life or in your heart since Just Faith?
There's a phrase that says we all wake up, and I was woken up by Just Faith and Jack with the program. But the good thing is that we wake up, regardless of what time it is or when it happens in our lives. So I woke up to the reality that there are people around me, neighbors and people that I see almost every day, and sometimes that I don't see, that are Christ in our community, that are marginalized, forgotten, victimized, and Just Faith made me aware that I need to have the honor of being able to work with them to do something on their behalf to bring peace and justice to our world through them and through the work that I may see happening and can create in Cheyenne, Wyoming. One of the mantras in our group was also from Mother Teresa, who said, if you want to do something, do what's in front of you. And we started doing something in front of us.
Ed, I'm going to ask you one more question.
Yes.
When did you, given how much you've been moved, how much your life has changed, how much our friendship has been possible with so many, when did you become a donor? What made you do that?
A little embarrassing. I didn't become a donor at first because I didn't recognize that Just Faith was a nonprofit, Just Faith Ministries. I just knew that they created exceptional programs that made a difference, that transformed people, including myself, until it hit me that, and it also occurred to me that Just Faith Ministries was not out there doing charity work, like feeding the hungry and sheltering the homeless, like those people and organizations that we were giving our money to at the time. But then it occurred to me that Just Faith Ministries is a unique program that is doing work by leveraging dollars to touch more people around the country, 65,000 now. And that return on investment, if you want to call it that, is much more than I could ever do with any of my money and any of my experiences, any of my energy. So Just Faith Ministries is now the recipient of the greatest portion of any giving that we have. And we're proud to give that and keep looking for how we can give more.
Imagine, Ed, if Just Faith grads were multiplied to make that change in all of the spaces in their lives. And imagine if all of us could let's just do this and double or triple the number of people who are on this call in 5 years. Like, let's become a force for good. Let's extend and pay forward this opportunity for others. I invite all of you tonight to just do this on a partnership with Just Faith and an organization that I'm so proud and so humbled to be a part of, and frankly, just so darn lucky, actually, that it's given me a friendship that's one of the most important of my life.
Thank you, Julie. Same here. As Susie mentioned, and I'll just reiterate, if you're a current donor, thank you. If you haven't already considered giving a special 20th anniversary gift, please do that immediately after this program is over in a few minutes. And if you have not been a donor at all for Just Faith Ministries, consider that multiplier effect that your dollar can have in many, many ways that you never imagined. And I invite you to, again, as Susie mentioned, give something to make the world a more peaceful and just world. It happens.
Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for giving.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You guys are great. I love it. I love the excitement. It's been a fantastic evening. We are very close to the end of our program tonight. I want to give a big shout out to staff that really organized and put this together. Great job. You know, technology can be scary, but it looks like we made it through okay, as far as I know. So again, huge thank you to Mary Becker and Gary and Mary. And thanks to all you guys that are part of the Just Faith family. I hope you've found the time meaningful. I've found it very meaningful and inspiring to hear the stories and to be with such great people, such great Just Faith staff and such great board and everybody that's here tonight. So thanks to everybody. I hope you have a wonderful evening. So good night and God bless.